For more than 2 decades, Romania and Bulgaria have been waiting to be a part of the Schengen area. The EU hasn't made them feel too welcome either, with certain states opposing their inclusion. In today's video, we'll be covering how Romania and Bulgaria have tried to gain EU's trust for years, the potential benefits of the two joining the Schengen area, and how even then, it might be a double-edged sword. The Schengen Area was established in 1985 in a small village in Luxembourg and has since evolved to be one of the most visible and symbolic manifestations of European integration. Entire generations have grown used to traveling across borders without having to carry a passport or go through border checks. Well, almost everyone. Although Schengen was initially created independently of the European Union, it was eventually absorbed into its legal framework and currently serves as a key supporter of the single market. Nearly 420 million people live in the zone, which consists of 26 countries, including 22 EU countries. But just a few EU nations have yet to benefit from passport-free travel. This is the situation with Bulgaria and Romania, two countries that patiently wait for inclusion in Schengen after joining the EU in 2007. The two bids were never going to be simple, but after more than 2 decades in line, Sofia and Bucharest are getting frustrated with the procedure. See, having common regulations, strong checks on external borders, sharing of security information, and effective police cooperation are among some of the requirements for joining Schengen. The governments claim that they've long satisfied the essential requirements, but still don't have a way in. Despite the border inspections, they even joined the Schengen Common Visa system as red-only participants. There's no doubt that the European Commission and the European Parliament support them. WHO keeps stressing that the candidates have met all technical requirements. MEPs have criticized the exclusion as being unfair. So, what's the roadblock? Bulgaria and Romania are so confident in their readiness that they asked expert fact-finding teams to visit and conduct an additional assessment in their countries. But politics still stands as a barrier. At this point, you want to make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any latest news. Now, how this whole process works is that the Council of the European Union, which brings together ministers from the 27 EU member states, must provide the final approval. And because the ratification of a new Schengen member must be unanimous, a single no can essentially halt the entire process. France, Germany, Finland, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Belgium reportedly opposed the twin bid in 2011 due to worries about corruption, organized crime, and judicial changes. The issue was often brought up in the years that followed, only to be pushed back. Hopes for entry were further dashed by the 2015 migration crisis, which became the litmus test for Schengen. But following the COVID-19 pandemic, the tide started to turn. Bulgaria and Romania were given the green light to join as French President Emmanuel Macron unveiled reforms for the passport-free zone, including the creation of a ministerial Schengen Council to facilitate swifter cooperation in times of emergency. Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, officially declared his support and his intention to fight to have Romania and Bulgaria become full members. Similar to any other issue in EU policymaking, moving forward and persuading other reluctant nations to take a position required the support of Paris and Berlin. Sweden's government was able to get enough support from within. Finland and Denmark also softened their positions. Then, in October 2022, the European Parliament adopted a resolution, the fifth of its sort since 2011, that increased pressure on lawmakers to allow the quick integration of Bulgaria and Romania. But only a few days later, the Dutch Parliament passed a resolution requesting that Prime Minister Mark Rutte veto the two applications pending the results of further investigations. The predominance of organized crime and corruption in Bulgaria and Romania, according to Dutch MPs, posed a risk to the security of the Netherlands and the entire Schengen area. See, the two nations are the lowest-ranking EU members in Transparency International's annual Corruption Perception Index. Mind you, they have ratings that are quite similar to Hungary and Greece, two long-standing Schengen members. Anyway, those claims were carefully looked into, and the countries were assessed for corruption and organized crime. Once both Romania and Bulgaria passed with flying colors, they looked back at the EU nations for approval. But guess what? Then Austria emerged as a new adversary after Chancellor Karl Nehammer stated that an expanded Schengen area would not be able to handle a new flood of migrants traveling from Turkey to Bulgaria and Romania. Each year, Austria receives around 100,000 applications for asylum. Nehammer estimates that 40% of the migrants that enter the country do so via Hungary, after passing through Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey. In his words, irregular immigration is putting tremendous pressure on Austria, and the European asylum system has failed. Well, these claims were disputed by the president of Romania, Klaus Iohannis, who comes from the same right-center political family as Nehammer. He said that his country was not a part of the so-called Western Balkan route, which has been the scene of more than 120,000 border-crossing incidents just in 2022. And get this, the Dutch government opted to back Romania's entry into Schengen but not Bulgaria's. Their prime minister hinted that migrants might enter the country illegally if they paid €50 for it and questioned Bulgaria's capacity to control its borders. Liking the video so far? Drop us a thumbs up! In a non-binding resolution passed on June 12, 2023, the European Parliament urged Austria to stop preventing the entry of Bulgaria and Romania into the Schengen region, citing serious negative consequences for the citizens of those two nations. The non-binding resolution also urged the European Commission to investigate potential future actions before the EU court and if the Austrian veto violates EU treaties. The two nations are now being urged to join the Schengen area by the end of 2023 by the European Parliament, backed by the European Commission. Now let's look at how this will benefit the two countries. The Schengen Agreement was created to boost tourism from growing markets and trade and integration amongst various nationalities. But why should a country go through all of those steps, expenses, and efforts for it? First, the EU's internal market depends on the freedom of movement that the Schengen Agreement permits. Since non-EU citizens are allowed to cross borders, tourists are more likely to make purchases across many European nations. Also, for Schengen citizens, particularly those who live close to national borders, the economic component is huge because it gives them more freedom. This helps in lowering pricing differences across countries. Overall, Schengen helps to strengthen the free market in Europe by fostering international competition and elevating supply and demand as the sole determinant of pricing. Naturally, there's a few cons to the Schengen Agreement too, though. The system is founded on a treaty between independent states, so any changes require the majority consent of all Schengen participants, which is a rigid arrangement. Also, contrary to popular belief, there's less harmony in the system. The majority of the several hundred pages that make up the Schengen regulations are devoted to exceptions from the general standards. The regulations are less standardized and more complex than they initially appear because of these exemptions. In the event of a specific threat to national security, like a terrorist attack or an outbreak of avian flu, member states are allowed to temporarily suspend the Schengen regulations and reintroduce border controls. From a government's perspective, this is advantageous, but often employing these exemptions could cause confusion and anxiety for travelers. Then, controlling transnational crime, drug smuggling, human trafficking, and unauthorized immigration is a huge undertaking. The criminal laws vary, even inside the Schengen region. Border controls are no longer in place in the region, making it more challenging to catch foreign drug traffickers who might try to take advantage of countries' laxer drug regulations. Let's not forget that a chain's strength is determined by its weakest link. Schengen is only as strong as its weakest member, so you're essentially signing up to let anyone freely enter the country if there's even just one corrupt or careless immigration officer. Now, according to the resolution passed in June 2023, Austria's veto has ignited an anti-European sentiment, seriously harmed the economies of Romania and Bulgaria, and also played a role in harming the environment because of the pollution at borders where millions of cars queue up for hours to be checked. It also claims that citizens of Bulgaria and Romania are subjected to discrimination because they not only bear higher prices, but also face longer wait times and more bureaucratic hassles when they travel or conduct business abroad in comparison to those from other Schengen countries. The document highlights the irreparable damages to the environment that go against the objectives of the European Union's climate neutrality, in addition to the harm done to the EU single market by impeding the free flow of goods between all European member states. So, which side are you on? Let us know in the comments below if you think this resolution will ensure that Romania and Bulgaria enter the Schengen area by the end of 2023. We'll see you in the next video.